Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Ayahuasca Assisted Therapy, with an old friend, Dr. Scott. So nice to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for coming. And I'm just excited to dive in with a real conversation about cultural appropriation, and especially in the plant medicine world, especially in, using the sacred ayahuasca. And I'm just really excited, to talk about this with you, because you live, in a very exciting place, in a very exciting way that you're going to tell us all about. And what does that mean, to really embody, what we are talking about here. So welcome.
Thanks, Nina. It's great to see you again. So I'm actually living in the rainforest in Ecuador with an indigenous tribe, a Quechua tribe, and it's been just under 2 years now. So it's like time is passing, and I've been able to I think really get embedded into this culture. Now, this culture is old as as the Amazon, and they've been here since before the Amazon was called the Amazon. And I don't think a lot of people understand or know this, but there are very few plant medicine centric indigenous communities left here in this part of the Amazon. So the forces of modernization have really caused a lot of homogenization of the indigenous culture. So in other words, you have the national education system that is schools that speak Spanish and really teach nationalistic agendas and tell the indigenous that they're backwards and they're uninformed, and many of them are left behind. And then you have the other forces. You've got the industrial forces. Petroleum interests had a huge impact on the indigenous. They've murdered so many of the indigenous. They've taken their lands and their territories, and luckily there is a constitution that has given the indigenous their ancestral lands. And these are sovereign nations. These are independent nations now, and they're really left to their on their own. And so, which means there's a lot of poverty, and so a lot of forces that are going on, and of course, deforestation. That's a big deal, and we're talking about, I think it's 170 acres per minute are being destroyed in the Amazon through deforestation, and that's horrible. And that's like 78 million acres a year, and with that comes all of the species and the flora and the fauna, that many of these things have not even been discovered by science yet. So, and with that, with the deforestation comes the delocation of the indigenous that live in these jungles that are being ravaged. Actually, it's interesting. You'd think that logging was the biggest culprit in deforestation, and it's not true. It's farming, big farms, these big agricultural farms. That's what's causing most of the deforestation. So lots going on.
Yes, totally. I can imagine, and that's why, one of the big reasons that we are here to really dive into this, because this is a real problem, as you said, that indigenous cultures being wiped out, or even if they are acknowledged, they start their existence from such a disadvantage, that it often leads to poverty and a lot of problems and challenges. So what is cultural appropriation? I had no idea. So I looked up in the internet, and one of the definitions that I found, it said that the term cultural appropriation refers to the use of artifacts or elements of a non-dominant culture by a person from the dominant culture without reverence or respect for the source. So taking intellectual property, traditional knowledge, cultural expressions, so on and so forth, you know, without the culture's permission. This can include unauthorized use of another culture's dances, dress, music, language, folklore, cuisine, traditional medicine, religious symbols, etc. And it's most likely to be harmful when the source community is a minority group that has been oppressed or exploited in order in other ways, when the object of the appropriation is particularly sensitive, for example, sacred objects or medicine or, you know, cultural artifacts. So, you know, as I was reflecting on this, I think it's really like a broad definition, and you know, in some way everything is a cultural appropriation from our ancestors, right? So but I understand that. I think what it means to me, what they want to say with this is the exploitation, is the destruction that is caused, you know, that there is no balance in the giving and receiving. Is just like taking without giving anything back, and, you know, a dominant people taking from people who are minority or a poverty or in any kind of disadvantage. So what do you think about that, or how do you understand this whole concept?
For me, it was it became more and more obvious as the ayahuasca retreat centers are, you know, opening up in the United States. Like, for example, you know, I was with SoulQuest for, you know, for a little over 5 years, and you know, I don't ever remember, and I mean honestly, I don't ever remember any time that there was any kind of reciprocity towards any indigenous anywhere in the world. And, you know, we're serving 100 people a weekend the sacred medicine, and, you know, at $1,000 a pop, you do the math. You know, there's a lot of money that's being made off of the medicine that comes from the Amazon. And then when you look at you know, the symbols, the use of the culture, occasionally there were some taitas or some, you know, indigenous shaman or medicine men or women that would be leading a ceremony, but it was really more just do a ceremony and present the medicine and make up your own flow of ceremony, and not really with the reverence and the gratitude towards those that are the purveyors of the original purveyors of medicine. Not any education. So, you know, that I think that's, you know, I wasn't so sensitive to these issues, even way back into, like, I went to the World Ayahuasca Conference in Girona, Spain in 2019. And that was really the first time that, you know, I heard on the larger stage, the lack of sensitivity in the West to the, you know, to the appropriating the culture. I think that it's important to give back. You know, like, for example, in Peru, over harvesting of ayahuasca is a big deal. I mean, there's very, very little large vine left. And that means that they have to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the jungles to find any large vine. And, you know, I know that here in Ecuador at Sacha Wasi, we have an adopt a vine program where we're replanting. Every time there's a guest that comes to Sacha Wasi, you know, we replant the medicine for each person that drinks, so that there is, you know, plenty of vine in the future. And the vine doesn't grow in the United States, for example, you know, very well, if at all. And so that's not possible. But there, I would think that with the over harvesting in Peru, and so many people, you know, are going to Peru, it's not endangered in Colombia or in Ecuador. At least I hope not yet. I mean, I know it's not yet, but I hope not in the future is what I meant to say. But those are things that we need to be aware of. You know, if we're in the United States using this medicine that comes from the Amazon basin, and we're not doing anything to help replant, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge thing. And I really think that the people that are serving the medicine need to involve the indigenous. They need to be a part of their training. They need to, you know, invite them to the ceremonies and host them. You know, I think that they should be doing the ceremonies. I mean, you know, a gringo ceremony is not the same as an indigenous ceremony. I mean, it's not. There's, you know, the intention is good. It's good, but we're looking at, like at Sacha Wasi, where I am, we have the pure indigenous. They're not mestizo. They're not, you know, like most of us gringos, you know, we're like German, Italian, you know, French, you know, Spanish, you know, all these different bloodlines that have been mixed through, you know, the generations. These are pure. These people, their bloodlines are, you know, like I said, they're older than the, you know, the Amazon. And with that, these families have passed down these, you know, secret recipes. You know, there are ways that they make the medicine. We get some people, like our medicine at Sacha Wasi is not that thick molasses type of medicine that you get. And we've had a lot of, you know, people that think they know what's going on in the world of this plant medicine, and they're questioning the, you know, the skill of the. We don't have shaman at Sacha Wasi. We have yachaks. Yachak is the Quechua word for shaman, and medicine man. Army yachak is the female, the woman shaman, and they're questioning their recipe, how they make it, you know, this sort of thing. And because it's liquidy, it's not this thick molasses stuff. And it's like, they're like, what do you mean? You know, this is how we make it. You know, we made it this way for, you know, for generations and generations. And the reason why they make it that way is they have an abundance of leaves and vine. So they don't have to do this reduction and get every ounce of, you know, medicine out of the vine and out of the leaf. So they cook it in one 12-hour day, you know, not 3 or 4 like a lot of people do. And medicine is powerful, strong. And sometimes they have a couple of little secret ingredients that they have that they don't share, and other leaves. And you know, I don't know if it's just that people are not, you know, not aware that there are different types of ayahuasca blends out there. And you know, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of criticism. It's like really an ayahuasca cult, I call it. It's like, this is the way it's supposed to be, rather than, you know, let's find out the way it's supposed to be from the indigenous, not from the gringo that's saying, you know, hey, it's supposed to be this big molasses.
Well, that's exactly, I wanted to ask you that question. So it's great that we are here, which is, what is the authentic use of ayahuasca? Is that an authentic use? Because as you said, so many tribes, so many different, you know, different countries, we can say, who are in the Amazon basin and the tradition, and even the newer traditions of, you know, the Santa Daime, Umbanda, other types of just frameworks to approach and to work with this medicine is so diverse. So what did you discover? Is there one thing that everything come from, or it was just all people started to use it and develop their own way of working with it that they passed that down through their lineage?
Well, so help me understand your question a little better. You want to know what's unique about their...
No, it's more like, is there an authentic use of ayahuasca? You know, when you say, okay, you are appropriating something, like, what is that I'm appropriating? To tell me what is the right way, what is the authentic way, what is the indigenous way of doing this? Because the Sacha Wasi has their way, the Shipibos have their way, in Brazil they have their way of doing it, you know, and it's different way, right?
Well, the Sacha Wasi way of doing it is so it's everything starts with pretty intense limpia. And so they really want to make sure that that you're prepared for receiving of the medicine. So it's not just a little smoke cleanse, with some feathers and all that. You've got the three yachak that are doing a very, very thorough cleanse prior to receiving the medicine. So there is a love and a deep respect for Pachamama. And so the songs that they sing, the Icaros that they sing, are part of, they bring the medicine, to you after your limpia. And, that's when you're taking in this, they don't call it a sacrament, right? The sacrament is a church governmental term that was used for legalization purposes of churches in the United States for the whatever. They have to be a church to deliver the medicine. They don't look at it as a sacrament in that sense. It is communing with Pachamama. And so the reverence towards nature, the ceremonies are often very silent. Don't have the speakers with the playlists that are playing, Darpan and all that, all this music playlists. It's very basic. It's very stripped down, very silent. We hear the river. We hear the night sounds. We hear the night birds. In that regard, when someone is, is in the work, the El Trabajo, the purging, they will bring their rattles, or they'll use the drums, their instruments. They will sing the Icaros to the person as they're releasing, letting go. And so there is a lot of interaction with the yachaks during the ceremony when you're having a rough time. And so there's also not a lot of rules in terms of don't touch, don't talk, this kind of thing. Is you could be in the middle of a ceremony and the yachak's talking to one of their kids. It's like, it's not like you're in this silent container that everyone is so concerned about preserving, like, oh, you're violating the rules. I mean, it's courteous, if it's nice and quiet, but it's not rigid like that. It's really fluid and more relaxed. So, but I think that if anything, it's just what's missing is just the deep involvement of the medicine men and women, the shaman, the yachaks. You don't get that in the States unless you have, these facilitators, it's all family. These kids, they've taken their first ayahuasca when they were in the womb. When the mothers are pregnant. We've got three pregnant mothers here at Sacha Wasi now, and new generation is coming. And they have the medicine. When they're little kids, they take the medicine. As they get older, then they start sitting in ceremonies. They're training the young as facilitators. So there are no Westerners during a ceremony that are facilitating. It's all indigenous. So, I think that's that's a pretty cool thing. I think that the ceremony is pretty stripped down. Yeah, it's pretty stripped down.
So, tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, I'm interested to know that this was one of the reasons why you changed your life and gave up everything in the United States and you went to live there because you felt very strongly this imbalance and you wanted to do something more, or that was like not really your purpose.
For me, the mission found me. I didn't seek it out. I had no intention of coming to the jungle. I had no intention of being a part of this movement now. It's kind of like by divine assignment. I found myself asking questions and leading in. this is one of my little godchildren. This is Yutsu, and he's he's 5 years old. So what I found when I was here was a community that was just devastated by the pandemic. So there was a lot of starvation. People, had to, some of the men in the tribe had to go into town. I'm in town right now. Puyo is the nearest town to, it's about 30 minutes away by taxi in the jungle. And they had to come into town to get some work. They'd work 17 hours a day for about $5 a day. And they were not allowed to go home. So they worked for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And they might be able to get a little bit of time off. It's horrible. So I came in right at the tail end of that, where there was a lot of poverty. As I came and started to ask questions, I really was curious about what they needed. And Jesus Dagua is the president of the tribal community, and he said the first thing that they needed is water, basics, water. So I did a little exploration, and I'm like, what do you need? What do you need? And so it's like the water that they had was coming through tiny little tubes, and it wasn't everywhere. It was just in a few places, and it wasn't clean. So one of the first things that I did was bring in large tubing construction, built a water treatment facility with filtration, water pressure tanks, great big reserves of water. So now water, they're a community that has clean water, drinkable, pure, clean water. And there isn't another indigenous community probably within 2 or 3 or 400 miles from here that has that. And so there are a number of indigenous people, communities around. There are 37 indigenous tribal communities in 6 Amazonian regions with 7 different type of nationalities. And, very few of them are plant medicine centric. So that was one of my big aha moments, is realizing that there is not a lot of plant medicine indigenous communities left. And so Sacha Wasi, the community there, is on the verge of extinction. So if they don't make it, that is one less lineage that's going to be lost. Making it means that they have to survive on all levels. So survival, their economy is based on cultural tourism. People coming to sit with the medicine, for example, or come to their sacred dances, or their to be with the tribal community and see what it's like to live or to stay in bamboo huts in primitive conditions, the way it's been done for a long time. And so when that was interfered with the pandemic and the vaccine and people not being able to fly, I was putting out like $3,000 or $4,000 a month just to help feed the tribe. And so that was almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and 9, 10 months. And since then, we've done an awful lot. I could say today, the tribe is self-sufficient. They are thriving. They are using their own money. For example, today is the 1-year anniversary. Today, I'm so proud. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the Sacha Wasi Tribal Learning Center, which I had built with the help of a few friends. And, with this help, nothing was ever done that wasn't discussed within the tribe first. What do you need? Like the water. What do you need? Washer and dryer. What do you need? Electricity. What do you need? We need internet. We need school. We need medicine. And so in this period of time, we built the school. We've had teachers, volunteer teachers that have come from Germany and Spain and Great Britain, Australia, Poland, Denmark, United States, Switzerland, amazing. I'm so happy, and Russia. We just had wonderful, wonderful teachers. And so we also built a medical clinic that have doctors. So we now have an MD that is our medical director who, I have patients that come from 5 or 6 different tribal communities in the region, and they will come with problems that are because of the failure of the local medical system, because they view indigenous as they do as the super poor as being less than, and they don't give them the same treatment. So things like, leaving nylon sutures in somebody's stomach for 19 years, and that indigenous person is suffering every time they lift something or run. And so our medical staff, we've had rotating doctors that come in, our medical director, we have a stocked pharmacy where we have medicines and all that kind of stuff for folks. It's all, as part of preserving their culture. Okay. See, hasta luego. It's a part of preserving their culture from the medical part. We've had dentists, we've had 4 dentists from Germany and 1 from India come in and help to evaluate the dental condition of all of the community. Lots of problems there. And so when we have visitors come, they ask, what can I bring? I say toothpaste and toothbrushes and floss. And so they're taking care of their teeth. With that, we've taken many people to the doctors for problems, conditions that have been, untreated because they're afraid to go to the doctor because they don't use pain medicine. They go to the dentist, they pull out teeth, they don't do maintenance. They pull out teeth without pain medicine. It's horrible. So our medical clinic integrates traditional medicine with alternative medicine and indigenous medicine. So we got a whole team there. So we also have been working on sustainable food production. And so, build a great big chicken coop with 200 baby chickens. And those chickens are now 9 months old, ready to start laying about 180 eggs a day. They encouraged the food sustainability project and built this huge fish pond. And so I saw this morning in the Commodore what was my first view of a bucket full of fish that they had cultivated, grown their own in the pond, huge pond, like the size of a football field. And so they're feeding themselves now. Their retreats are about 100% full. People are coming from all over the world. I'm serious, like all over. And because they're interested in having an indigenous, as close to the real deal as possible, experience. And so now we're finding out that, people are really coming. The tribe is making enough money to now they've outgrown the original electrical system that we upgraded this last year. Now, because they're adding some casitas and another kitchen, they built this big, huge, wonderful kitchen. They built it, and now they have to put in a new transformer. And so with the new transformer, before that would have been for me to figure out how to pay for it or somebody else to pay for it. They've got the money, they're paying for it for themselves. They're so proud. They're building these new casitas out of their own money. They're so proud. And they're feeding themselves and their families. They're taking them to the doctors. Now I'm not paying for it. They're doing it on their own. So that I think is amazing. They are preserving their culture at the same time that they're teaching their children the ways of the ancestors. So that's why they leave town. They leave the communities to go into town because they can't sustain themselves. These kids are making money so that they can have jobs. So some of them making money building casitas, some of them making money preparing food, some of them are making money cleaning the casitas after the retreat guests. Some of them make the money because they're doing the tribal dances, or they're taking the guests into the jungle on hikes. So I'm really proud of them.
This is so amazing and so inspirational, and you know, I'm thinking about it that you are an example for other people for sure. And also this is like a drop in the ocean, right? And I also thinking about that a lot of times I see fundraisers and different people collecting money for some cause to help, you know, indigenous people do this and that and the other. And then, you know, like we are not sure where the money is going, or the people, what is the intentions. And I think that you really like created a working model, so to say. And what do you think a secret is, like, because from what I see from the outside, that the one of the biggest thing is like transparency, that, you know, like people can go there, and people do go there all the time, and they see what you are doing. It's not that, you know, like you are saying something and nothing is happening, you know, that there is this kind of transparency that people can see. You have you on your social media, I see you always posting about the chicken coop and everything that is happening, you know, in the community, and what's going on. So there is a transparency, there is a accountability, you know, that we can see, okay, you know, all these, you know, efforts are going there, and all these helpful people, it's there is something good coming out of it, which I think a lot of times either people with good intentions don't succeed doing what you're doing, or people doing it with different intentions. So what do you think that makes it work, you know, where you are in this way, that you kind of created this very, very cool, sustainable model that had the power to transform within less than 2 years, you know, from complete poverty and starvation into, you know, a little thriving hub, you know, that is going on there now. So yeah, spill us the beans, please.
Well, I'm a volunteer, so everything that I do is 100%, you know, free. The 100% of the revenues from these retreats go to the indigenous community. So there is no gringo cut. There's nothing that's coming out, and that's what's different. You know, these guys, I don't know about you, but, you know, I grew up in, you know, in a typical Midwestern family where my father and my grandfather and my uncle and, you know, grandmother and everybody, they told you how to run a business. You know, you started off with a lemonade stand, you know, you had a paper route, you had a lawn, I had all those things, a lawn mowing, you know, business, you know, all those things as a kid, to know how to run a business and to be, you know, in the business of business. They don't. And so one of the things that I shared with them was the truth about how they're being taken advantage of by other gringo promoters. So someone would come in, have 17 people for a retreat, they'd make $60,000. The tribe would make $2,000. And so I would put the spreadsheets together, and I would show the demonstration of, here's the revenue, here's what they charge, here's the number of people, here are the costs, here's what you charge, here's what they made, here's what you made. And the first time we sat down and did that, their jaws dropped and they cried, because they trusted these people. They believed that they were about their goodness and their benefits. And so I think that that's been the key, is open book transparency. So they don't have access to credit card service processing here. They don't. So, you know, I have an account. I've opened my account with the credit card processing payment system and everything, which is 100% open. Transparency. I go over the balances with them. Everything is open book. And so if I'm not in there with the percentage, I have nothing to hide. You know, and if a retreat center has all these people taking their pieces out, then, you know, there's interests in there that are contrary maybe than to, you know, to the goal. So Sacha Wasi is about preserving the culture of the indigenous. It's not about making gringos rich. Right? And it's not, their retreats, you know, 800 it's $875 or $975 for a 7-day retreat. Right? That's a very, very good rate, all inclusive. Right? It's not $3,000. It's not. It's less than what you pay at for a weekend retreat at Soul Quest. And you know, we talked about it as a community in terms of them making all the decisions. So I am, as a godfather, as a friend, as a brother, as an uncle, as a, you know, as a relation, and they treat me like family as I treat them like family. And there's a trust that was gained, and so that trust doesn't happen overnight. You know, we have really good friends of Sacha Wasi who are stepping up. For example, we have a friend of Sacha Wasi who is now building a veterans program, a dormitory for veterans and first responders. And so now we'll be able to, in their foundation, we'll be able to sponsor veterans and professional athletes and first responders and people that are in trauma and in trouble who need to have access to the plant medicine, and we'll have funding available so that will assist them in coming to work with the medicine. So, you know, that's the idea. We want to be able to help people come. We also have to be able to facilitate them and house them. So this is a new building that's being built that will house, I think it's around 6 to 8 women and 6 to 8 men in this one grand casita. And so that's huge. I mean, that's a wonderful gift. And so, you know, this is the idea. When our collaborators come in, they ask, what can we do? How can we contribute? And so I might be the person that's helping to facilitate the first conversation, but we always sit down with the tribe and say, what do you want? So we had an offer come in from a group that was from another country, and their attitude and their tone and their approach was very rough and very they everything that they did, they chiseled them down to nothing. They showed them no respect, and they said, we want this, we want this, we want this, and we'll pay you $15,000 a month. But that whole approach where they were going to tell them how to live in their community and accommodate them because they're going to make them $15,000. You know, the community came together and had their meeting, and they chose not to. They chose not to, and I said, I came by and said, what's going on? And they said, what do you think? And I said, I agree. I said, you'll make that on your own. You don't need to be enslaved by anybody, because that's been the history. So their pride is being restored, and it's really about us from the outside helping to empower them. I don't make choices for them. I do not make choices for them. I help them to inform them and say, what would you like to do? So I think that's the key.
Yes, that's amazing, definitely. And that obviously helps that you are living there, you know, and so you are part of the family or part of the community. That's your home, you know. So that I think, you know, contributes a lot. And I don't think that it's bad for people to train with indigenous people and get permission and serve the medicine or take the medicine somewhere. But definitely what you just mentioned, this huge imbalance of what they take out of it and what they give back, or if they give back at all, I think that has to be more balanced, you know. So what do you think, what would be a good model for people who, you know, they can obviously support communities like yours and causes that they know that legit, and they can go there and check it out? And what do you think that if somebody is running retreats in the States and that's what they want to do, and they make it like how can they give back, and what is that percentage you think that would be ethical and fair to say, hey, if you are making $100,000 and you are giving 2,000 to these people, that is not ethical, that is not fair?
Well, I don't think they were giving 2,000 in that example. I think they gave nothing. But you know, that's a tough one. You know, I would think that the connection between those in the Amazon and those anywhere else in the world that are doing the medicine would be improved by visits. I think that there needs to be people coming to the Amazon and sitting with the medicine and training with these indigenous leaders continuously, and building bridges between the Amazon and wherever you're sitting with the medicine. So you're an extension of their family. You're like, for example, on the plant medicine path, you know, we're working on the Temple of the Sacred Plants. You know, this is a global church that has a temple retreat in, you know, in 7 different countries right now. We're working on creating this network so that when somebody is getting information about how we hold ceremony in Texas, you know, it's grounded in the traditions that came from the Amazon because they trained there. They're in connection with them. And there's the guidance and the leadership of the doctrine of the plant medicine that originates from the indigenous. So for us to be more humble and to say, we don't know, we come to you to know, tell us, you know, tell us, you know. And in this Temple of the Sacred Plants, you know, we're working on, this is a big project, and we're working on standardization. So the tribes are different, you know, and Peru is different than in Mexico, is different than in Ecuador, is different. But there is an opportunity to be grounded in the traditions, not make up our own. Like at SoulQuest, you know, I was the senior minister. My job was to make it up. Make it up. You know, in order to be a church and quack like a duck, walk like a duck, and swim like a duck, was make it up. And so we did a great job of making it up. And we'd have a, you know, I remember Taita Pedro coming in, and he was Taita from Putumayo, Colombia. And he was supposed to be the head of the church. But I remember him coming to me one time, pretty disappointed, because he confessed that all he was a, you know, like a performing clown. He did not have the respect and the position and the authority within the organization to lead it as it should be done. And so that's arrogance from the organization, where it's like, wait a minute, we don't know this stuff. You put the people that know this stuff in charge. These are the ones that should be leading your ceremonies, the ones that are holding the spaces. And though if you're a student of them, then give them credit, right? And include them. So percentage wise, you know, I think that's a tough question, because, you know, in traditional churches, you tithe 10%, right? And so you wouldn't have this medicine if you didn't have the indigenous. And this medicine, there is great sacrifice that many have gone through to keep their cultures alive and training, you know, their families. And so this is like, you know, ancient knowledge. What's that worth? You know, I believe in the way it says it in the Ayahuasca Manifesto, which we embrace, you know, this idea that the medicine is supposed to leave the Amazon basin and go to all places in the world. And I support that. But it needs to be done I believe, in responsible ways, where there is the respect for the culture from where it comes, and there is the reciprocity to those indigenous, and there is a consensus, in sense, where the medicine is served in traditional ways. Okay, so learn how to do limpia, learn how to do it, learn how to do the icaros, right? Learn how to make the medicine. Right? Learn how to make the blessings, and spend more time, I think, every year or whatever your pilgrimage is, to go back to the indigenous roots and reconnect with that source. So, or bring them to your center, and use workshops and trainings and this sort of thing. So I'm a little biased.
Thank you. Well,
I'm a little biased,
obviously
yeah.
you are, but you're also talking from experience, and I really love your idea, your approach of creating bridges and creating a network. And while you were talking about it, I was thinking that we should have ambassadors, because you are kind of an ambassador, and they need an ambassador because, as you said, just simple things that they don't have a bank account. So I want to give you a donation, and hey, I can't receive the money, like, so they need from the West people who go in there and live there like you and understand, and can listen to them and see and help them with these things. And also, as you said, we need to bring them and invite them to what we are doing, if we are taking the medicine, to outside, right, of their context. And I think that could definitely, I can see this working out, having a network and having ambassadors who are on the ground, and then being in connection with other people. And I think, that being ethical, for me, that's very spiritual. I think ethics is a spiritual characteristics. I think, like, if you're spiritual, you're ethical. That's the whole point of it, and I think ethics means to create the right relationships with everything, with people, with the earth, with things, and to treat others and to treat things as part of us, that reflects that ethos, that connectedness, as you were talking about with the Sacha Wasi and the Pachamama and the earth and the connectedness. And if you are truly on this path, and if you are working with this medicine and you understand that, then you would never exploit, like that, because that's just, that level of consciousness what you maintain. So the people, obviously, who are gaining profit out of it, or misusing or abusing or exploiting other people, obviously they didn't get to that level of awareness and ethics and spirituality that what they are preaching about or talking about. And I think that's kind of important to understand. And I really appreciate that you are just doing it, like so many people talking about it, or let's collect money or something, but you went there and you're just making this happen, and I think that's something like super amazing, super inspirational. And anybody who listens to this podcast, if you want to come on board, if you want to join, if you want to be an ambassador, if you want to be a helper, like if you want to participate, if you want to go to Scott's place and check it out, then definitely get in touch with Dr. Scott. We're going to share his information in the description. And follow the good example. That's just all I can say. And this is something that can be like a win-win for everybody, right? And we can all like benefit, from this like new psychedelic renaissance, as they say it in the West. But definitely that commercial, that greedy, that arrogant type of mindset. And as you were saying, people coming in and demanding things and ordering, people around, like that's just something that we have to disobey and say no to, I think, and come up with different alternatives and come up with good examples and show people, that it can be done differently. And you are one person, and you look how much difference you made. Of course, I know you have connections, you've been involved in this for a long time, you've been in the church, all of that, but still, like, look the difference one person can make. And think about that, how much power you have as an individual to make a difference. So instead of just talking about things, and reading and listening, which is great, like, think about what you can do like in your life, you to be part of it and to bring more equality and more recognition and more just, you know, treating each other in a different way. And this is definitely something that we can learn from the indigenous people, and I'm sure you can testify to that, right?
I mean, we had at SoQuest, for example, over 60 people that went through the Being True to You program for integration, psychospiritual integration training. I mean, these are resources. These are all people that have great skills to help Westerners who are coming to this medicine in the Amazon. I mean, these are the bridges. You know, for the people that are leaning towards this plant medicine path, it's adopting a tribe. It's like, so you find a community somewhere, you hear about it, and maybe lean into that a little bit and ask the questions like I did. What do you need? You know, I'm so humbled. I am so humbled by the outpouring and the generosity of people who they read a little bit ahead of time when they're coming, and they see that, you know, that this is about preserving their culture, and they ask, what can I bring? What can I do? And we've got some wonderful folks who have come who, when they asked, I said, well, they really need things for the school, right? They need notebooks, and they need pencils and crayons, and this one woman had purchased a wonderful, you know, cards and learning cards and, you know, educational materials that cost a lot of money, and shipped them over. And came, they, you know, you had to pay extra for the shipping, but she went through that extra effort. So it might be, if you're going to a retreat center that uses, or that, you know, has indigenous people that are facilitating ceremonies, it might not be the retreat center, but the indigenous that are holding the ceremony. It might be finding out from them, you know, what they need, because, you know, people may think that these shaman or these, you know, yakshiks or medicine men or these sacred, holy, pious people, you know, they go from ceremony and they put their jeans on and they go to the cart and they sell their, you know, their souvenirs or their stuff to be able to put beans and rice on the table. You know, it's like, these people are real people. They have families. They've got bills to pay. They've got to make money. And, you know, after their ceremony, they might be out in the chakra. They might be, you know, planting or doing something, but they may need things. And this is, you know, it's like the mentality. It's like, do you think that they made very much money in that ceremony? They might have made, you know, a couple $100, and you might have received a life-changing experience from this individual. So, you know, you went to a gringo retreat somewhere, and I use that word, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone. I'm a gringo. But there's this idea that if there's indigenous, there's shaman, if there are people that are there, let's find out what they need. Ask them, right? Ask the organizers of the retreat, how is this structured? Right? Where does this money go? Where does the family, or usually the tribals, the facilitators, or the ceremony shaman or whatever, are families, tribes, families. You know, what do they need? And let me facilitate that, you know, for just something like, we had the gift of a washer and dryer from a wonderful friend. And these are nice big washer and dryer. They were spending 6 to 8 hours a day in the river washing the blankets and sheets from a retreat. You know, that's a lot of time. And it can be in the wintertime cold and rainy. And these are not people that are, you know, like immune to pain and discomfort. They feel cold just like you do. They feel knuckles burning and, you know, chapped lips and everything, just like all of us. And so it's wonderful that I see how the whole tribe at Sacha Wasi organizes and uses the washer and dryer between their families. And I see that one thing just like that has effects that have gone way beyond all the members of, there's only 67 members left in their tribe. That's all. right? Now we got 3 more coming. We had 1 baby last year. So it's hopefully it's going to grow. But I would say if you could, explore where you're working with the medicine and find out, what can I do to contribute? And or like I know that Jesus Dagua and his family, there are certain ones that I've helped them get their passports, 2 of them. And I want to bring them one of these days to the United States so they can bring their tradition, their medicine to, one of our temple retreats somewhere in the United States or somewhere to be able to share. But they've never been out of the Amazon. They don't know the gringo world. They don't know how we suffer from modern Western society. They see these people come. They don't know what the conditions are, the environment that creates the great, great illness that we have in our modern world, loneliness and isolation and separation. And so that's another one of the things I want to do is bring some of them there so they can see firsthand why it's so hard for us, with
Totally. That's like creating the bridges, as you're saying, that you're there and they need to come and understand, as we need to go and understand what they need, as you said, what do you need? They also, it would be benefit for them to understand what we need, because we are also where we are coming from. And also something that people can do is to, if you are going to a retreat or working with a medicine circle or something, to ask the people, how do you give back? Where is all this money going? And if somebody cannot answer or do not want to answer that, maybe you want to work with somebody or go on a retreat with people who can give you an answer. And I think also if people kind of navigate to smaller places, because it tends to happen that the bigger something gets, the bigger the greed and the temptation and all that, it becomes like an industry and market and all of that kind of thing. So I think, smaller places definitely tend to be more authentic. Not necessarily, you have to do your research. So people, you can just think about this. And if you are listening and thinking about going on a retreat, working with this medicine, this is some of the considerations that you can do. And that matters, your choice matters, and everything has consequences. And you can, beyond your own healing, you can contribute, to the upliftment of others, and giving back and balancing this big equality, that we have in this world. So thank you so much for coming today. And yeah, if you want to say a few words before you leave, like before we hang up for today, like this is the time.
Well, I would just say that the whole reason why I put my whole life and soul into this is because these people are pure, they're beautiful, they're kind, they're honest. The way that their families function, the way these communities function, we can learn from them. I've never seen anything like it. The way they solve problems, the way they care for each other, the way they care for the visitors that come. These are people that are heart-centered and they're pure. I love them. I just love them. Love, 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 love them. These are living examples of Christ consciousness living within a tribal primitive community, as they always have, teaching us the way to be. Like it's just be there. My casita where I live is about, I don't know, half a block maybe from where the next house is, maybe a little closer. And it's a family that has 9 people living in their house. And I hear sweet chatter, laughter, giggles. That's all day, all the time. It's laughter and giggles and joy and lightheartedness. And then they're either that or they're playing football. And the Sacha Wasi just won their football tournament in this region, so we're so proud of them. But football is a big deal, but they're fun, loving people. So that's why I think that they're worth preserving, because they know things. They know things that we can learn, benefit from. And they're just really special people. So, Nina, it's so great to see you again. Thank you for for giving us this
Thank
platform.
you. Hopefully in person soon in Ecuador, because I'm so drawn now. I really want to see and meet them, you know, and hug them. And I mean, also the nature. You showed me some pieces when we were talking, like it's just breathtaking, you know, that nature and the forest and being there. So thank you for all that you do. There is definitely, we're going to come back with more, you know, at one time, and just blessings on everything, and may it grow and multiply and thrive even more, and may this be an example and a model, you know, for many people to follow. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.